It's minus 30 degrees. No grocery store, no freezer, no Tupperware, and you still have to eat. Every single day. So what do? You're about to find out exactly how humans solved this problem, hundreds of thousands of years before electricity existed. And some of the methods are weirder than you'd think. Here's the problem. Summer and fall. Food everywhere. Berries, nuts, herds of animals fattening up before migration. Then winter hits. Plants stop growing. Animals vanish or hole up. Hunting gets brutal. If early humans ate everything the moment they caught it, they'd starve every single winter. They didn't. They survived thousands of winters in a row, which means they'd figured out something specific, a set of actual techniques for making food last. Let's go through exactly what they did at one of the oldest known campsites we have evidence from, hundreds of thousands of years old. People did something very specific with deer legs. Instead of stripping the skin off the bone right away, they left it on purpose. Here's why that matters. The skin acted as a natural seal, keeping air and bacteria away from the marrow inside. Researchers tested this exact setup and found the marrow stayed edible for up to 9 weeks. 9 weeks. From one wrapped bone. So the actual technique was, kill the animal, strip most of the meat for immediate eating, but leave the skin sealed around the leg bones, and store those bones somewhere cool inside the shelter. Then come back to them weeks later for a ready-made source of fat and calories. That's not catch it, eat it. That's a deliberate stockpile, built with one specific trick. Don't remove the natural packaging. Next technique. Even more direct. Take the meat, weigh it down with a stone, and sink it into a cold stream or pond. Why this works? Water sitting around 5 degrees Celsius slows bacteria down to almost nothing. The meat doesn't dry out, doesn't get exposed to insects, and stays cold and stable. The exact same principle your fridge uses today, minus the compressor. In winter, the technique gets even simpler. Dig a hole in the snow, or pack the meat directly into solid ice. Cold air does the rest of the work automatically. No maintenance needed, just retrieve pieces as required. Now here's the number that should stop you in your tracks. One large mammoth carcass could feed a group of about 50 people for at least 3 months. But the technique here wasn't just kill something big. It was about which parts got prioritized during butchering. Hunters targeted the fat first, the layer just under the skin, the fatty hump near the neck, and the marrow packed inside the leg bones. Lean muscle meat was eaten quickly, since it spoils faster and provides less usable energy in extreme cold. There's an actual documented effect called rabbit starvation, eating large amounts of lean protein with almost no fat, where the body still slowly breaks down from malnutrition. So the butchering process itself was strategic. Separate the fat-rich parts, and once the outside temperature dropped below freezing, the remaining carcass essentially preserved itself. Cold air stopped decay in its tracks, and the group simply returned to cut off portions as needed over the following weeks. This one sounds like a mistake, but it wasn't. Evidence from this period shows people deliberately let meat, fish, fat, and even the stomach contents of animals partially break down before eating them, a controlled form of fermentation, not spoilage. The actual method, bury the food, often in a cold pit or submerged container, and leave it sealed for an extended period. At low, stable temperatures, harmful bacteria barely grow. But the right combination of enzymes and bacteria slowly breaks the proteins down, which softens the food and can make it easier to digest and more nutritious than the raw version. This wasn't a one-off accident, either. Related fermentation methods are still used by some northern communities today, applied to fish and meat in almost the same way. And then, the most universal technique of all, drying. The actual process: cut meat, fish, or fruit into thin strips, then expose them to sun, wind, or the heat and smoke of a fire until most of the moisture is gone. Why this works? Bacteria need water to multiply. Pull the water out, and there's nothing left for them to grow on. Dried this way, food could last for months without refrigeration of any kind. As groups later began settling in one place for longer stretches, one more technique got added: digging storage pits into the ground. The soil a few feet down stays at a stable, cool temperature year-round, essentially a natural root cellar. And that's where nuts and grain got buried for the winter. So it wasn't one trick. It was a full toolkit of specific techniques. Leave the skin on the bone to seal in the marrow. Submerge meat in cold water, weighed down with a stone. Butcher a large kill by prioritizing the fat first. Bury food to let it ferment under control. Cut food into strips and dry it out completely. Dig pits into the cold ground for long-term storage. None of this happens by accident. Each one is a specific, repeatable action, tested, refined, and passed down with no calendar, no thermometer, not even writing. So next time you open your fridge and grab something that's been sitting in there for a week, that idea is a few 100,000 years old. Subscribe, it gets weirder from here.